They sold over 50 million records worldwide. Who were they? The Kinks. And I'm going to do a series on the Kinks, which is my favorite group. Now, the Kinks, the center of the Kinks would have to be Ray and Dave Davies, who were brothers, who were born in London. And Ray was born in 1944. Dave, the younger brother, was born in 1947. Now, they were two of eight children. The older children were all sisters. So these were the first boys who were born into the family. And as in many families, the youngest member or members of the family tend to be the most successful. And certainly this was true with this particular family. So, um, eight children in the family. When they were still quite young, they moved to a suburb of London called Muswell Hill. Now, those of you who are familiar with the Kinks know that later on the Kinks would do an album called Muswell Hillbillies, where they celebrated country rock. But that's getting ahead of the story, and just to let you know that's where the name came from. In fact, a lot of the Kinks songs were based on autobiographical details from their own lives, and I guess you'd expect that from most groups because that's where you draw your inspiration a lot of. The background in the Kinks in the Davies family was jazz music and the English music hall tradition and rock and roll from their older sisters. So the brothers grew up in a pretty popular musical world. While they were still quite young, they started a skiffle band. You may remember Lonnie Donegan. Does the chewing gum lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight? That was a popular skiffle song. Skiffle was sort of like folk, kind of had a shuffling beat to it. Later on, they evolved in the 60s, early 60s, into the Ray Davies Quartet, where they played rhythm and blues and rock and roll. Peter Quaife, their bassist player, joined them about this time, and they played at their high school, and they were pretty popular. Later on, Mick Avery joined them on drums, and that was the quartet that was pretty standard throughout, at least throughout the 60s. The Davies brothers, Ray and Dave, of course, Mick Avery, and the bass player, Peter Quaife. So they went through a number of name changes. First, they were called the Ramrods, then the Ravens, then the Boll Weevils. Boll Weevils, of course, is a song by um, can't think of his name. Anyway, it was a popular rock and roll song in the 50s. And of course, Bo Weevils were decimating the crop. Bo Diddley wrote a Bo Weevil. And then they finally became the Kinks. Now, how did they become the name the Kinks? Well, one of their friends suggested that. Let's call you the Kinks. And Ray Davies first heard this and he hated it. He said, the Kinks? What do you think we are? Sexual deviants? No, the Kinks more referred to like a kinky lifestyle or kinky fashion. The Kinks obviously were outsiders. They were into alternative things, and the name grew on them, and they became the Kinks. Now, they went through some interesting changes in the early 60s. In 1962, Rod Stewart was their vocalist for a short time. Now, that would have been interesting if Stewart had stayed with them. It would have been a heavily dominated Rod Stewart vocals. Woo-hoo! I love Rod, but I'm kind of glad he didn't stay with them because Ray and Dave had their own unique vocals and personalities. Another character in late 62 joined them, Charlie Watts, who became the drummer of the Rolling Stones, was a short member of the Kinks. So it was a very heady time in London in the early 60s. Rock and roll was evolving. Of course, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all these groups exchanged members as time went on. But the Kinks finally got into a pretty standard routine. Now, in 1964, they had an opportunity with Pi Records to release a single. In February, they released a Little Richard song, which was not successful. That was Long Tall Sally, and it bombed. Later on, around I think it was around April, they released a second single on Pi called "You Still Want Me," and that bombed. At this point, Pi was telling the boys, you guys got to make it. It's three strikes and you're out. So they had a hit in mind. You really got me now, and they recorded it for Pi, and Pi was ready to release it. But Ray hated the mix. What had they done in the mixing was they had made the guitar almost disappear. And if you've ever heard that sound, I know you have. The principle, the real powerful thing on there is that power chording. That's what made the signal. Also, there was too much echo on the 45. So Ray and Dave insisted that they get an opportunity to re-record this in the studio. Well, Pi said, we already spent enough money on you guys. You had two failures. We're not going to do that. So there was a lot of negotiation went on. Finally, they were able to convince a couple of the producers to go to another studio, not Pi, a cheaper studio, where they did re-record the signal. And when it came out in August of '64, it was a smash hit. It came out in September in the United States, and that was "You Really Got Me." Just a wonderful, wonderful hard rock uh, single, which just electrified everyone. Number one in England. I think it almost went to number one in the United States as well. A huge success. And now the Kinks were on their way. And they did release their first album. Um, in the United States, "You Really Got Me" was released in October. The single in September, the album in October. Now, this was a fun album, mostly covers, because at that time, most of the bands, including the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, put a lot of covers on their albums. And the reason for that was people who were buying the albums wanted to hear the hits that were current. So a lot of times you'd put those hits on there and put your own stamp on them, and that way people would be more inclined to buy your album because they had all the songs they wanted to dance to. Now, later on, mid '60s and so forth, it became a lot more popular to write your own compositions. You can thank Bob for that, yeah, because Bob helped us grow up here and become more serious about music, and people wanted to make a statement. Now, there's some really good songs on here. "Beautiful Delilah" is a cover. "So Mystifying" is one of those early cuts that was kind of a foreshadowing of the later softer side of the Kinks. "Just Can't Go to Sleep," same thing. "Long Tall Shorty," Dave sings on that one. It's just kind of a novelty number. And "You Really Got Me," of course. Side two, "Cadillac, Cadillac," it's another cover. "Bald Headed Woman," another cover. "Too Much Monkey Business," Chuck Berry. "I've Been Driving on Bald Mountain." There's a reference here to bald for a couple of times. "Stop Your Sobbing." Later on, Christy Hines and the Pretenders did a cover of that. "There's one thing you got to do to make me still want you. Better stop humming. Better stop sobbing." So that was a good song. Again, the soft side of Ray. "Got Love If You Want It" is another cover. The Stones did that as well. So mostly covers, mostly rhythm and blues. Some foreshadowing of the softer nostalgic Kinks which were going to come along. It charted. It did pretty good. Now, the first three albums in the US and UK were different, and largely because of the fact in the UK they issued EPs with the hit singles, and they didn't put those hit singles on the albums. In the United States, EPs weren't as popular. I remember buying an EP as a kid, but they just didn't take off in the States like they did in Europe. And so as a result, the United States put the hit singles on the albums. And that, of course, led to some variations. Now, the next album came out just a few months after that, and that was in the United States, Kink Size. I got two of them here, stereo and mono. Now, the thing with Kinks albums, the first one was true stereo. But from then on, for the next five albums, the stereo was rechanneled. Now, rechannel just added the same track on the second, with the on the other side on the second track, It was the same recording, only slightly delayed, so it was kind of an echo, kind of a murky, muddy sound. Rechannel stereo was not so good. When they did that to Elvis, they really wrecked those Elvis albums. The true mono albums are the ones that you really want to hear. So, um, even though I have a stereo copy, I never play it. It was just released as kind of a fop to people who had stereos. Of course, the big hits here. Uh, you've got uh, you've got the two sides of the Kinks here represented. All day and all the night, all of the night. This was the hard side. This is like You Really Got Me, that hard rocking song. But you also have Tired of Waiting for You. So tired of waiting, tired of waiting for you. Very soft. And that was what the Kinks were developing here. They also did Louie Louie, the Kingsman song. Now, in this version, you can understand the words, and you realize that it's not as controversial as they thought it was in the States when the Kingsmen had their garbled vocals, and people wonder, what are they talking about there? I don't know, it could be risky. Well, here the Kinks clear it up. I've got that feeling is another kind of a soft, great revenge. Revenge. I don't remember that. I gotta move. That's really good. I gotta move and things are getting better. I gotta go now. That's really good. I'm a lover, not a fighter. That's really good. It's a cover. Come on now, all day and all the night. So here you got two hits and two more songs. Come on now, and I gotta go now, which are Kinks compositions, which are really good. So they are maturing as a band. They're getting to be um, more than they were initially. And this Kinks evolution continues onward. For the next albums, they're going to have more and more original recordings and more success as time goes on. Now, interesting, I forgot to mention this on the very first single. You Really Got Me. There's a couple fun stories about this. Um, First one is that in order to get that scratchy, fuzzy, grungy sound to the guitar, Dave Davies put a slash mark in the speaker of his amplifier, and that gave us that. And that was that was a really good thing to do. A lot of American artists tried to emulate that. Um, Also, oh, he called it his Dave called it his little green amp. So um, now we're getting into the late '64, early '65. The next album would be Kington in November. But before we talk about that, I need to talk about what happened in the States in 1965. The Kinks went on a tour in the United States in early '65, and as part of that tour, they appeared on Dick Clark's show, Where the Action Is. Let me tell you, baby, where the action is. And this was kind of an updated version of American Bandstand, where Dick Clark presented the With It Now mod groups, a lot of beat groups, a lot of American groups, and the Kinks had an opportunity to play on there. Unfortunately, some bad things happened on that visit. A TV guy told the Kinks they were late. And he said, just because the Beatles made it big in America, you guys, every mop top, snotty nosed, limey juveniles think they can make a living off the United States. Well, one of the members of the Kinks, I'm guessing it was Dave, threw a punch at that executive for saying that to him. And the TV guy got so mad, he went on to the American Federation of Musicians and he got the Kinks banned from touring the United States for 4 years. So this is unfortunately one of the habits that you're going to see it again and again with the Kinks, is that they're at the verge of a huge success and then they implode. They either get in a fight or something awful happens. Um, Okay. The next album that came out in the United States, which came out right after that incident, was Kinda Kinks. And this was a good album. This did really well. It's got Set Me Free, Little Girl. All you gotta do is set me free, little girl. You know you can do it if you try. All you gotta do is set me free. It charted, it was a hit. Everybody's gonna be happy, except me and you, including me and you, my love. Got my feet on the ground. Nothing in the world can stop me worrying about that girl. So long. Wonder where my baby is. Dancing in the street. Another cover. You shouldn't be. Don't ever change. Something better be getting. Look for me, baby. So this is more evolution, more progression for the Kinks. This is a good album. This was one of the first of their mature albums, where they're really getting the trademark sound. Kind of schizophrenic, half hard rock, half moody, introspective, soft stuff. And there they are, Ray and Dave and Mick and Peter. Now, interesting thing about the Kinks, they went through three transitions throughout their career. First one we're talking about was the hard rock uh, phase, which lasted about 65, but it continued thereafter. They always had some hard rocks on there. Then they went into a second phase of musical satire and English music hall styles, and The Village Green was the epitome of that. But that lasted up until the early 70s. And then when they went to Arista in 1977, they went on to an arena rock era of big rock, like Led Zeppelin kind of stuff, monster stuff, but also with Ray Davies' kinky, whimsical stamp on everything. So we're going to talk about those three phases, but not right now. We're still in 65, and the Kinks are still evolving. In 1965, they did a tour of Australia and New Zealand. It led to an onstage fight between Dave and Mick Avery when they got to Wales. Dave kicked over Mick's drums, and in return, Mick hit Dave with his hi hat, leaving Dave unconscious. So Mick thought he'd killed Dave. He was horrified, so he ran off. Later on, Dave recovered, rushed to the hospital, got 16 stitches, and the police were involved in this, and Mick had to tell them, "Oh, well, we meant to do that. That was part of the act." Yeah, yeah, sure, whatever. But that was another example of the struggles and the fights and the anger between the band members. And Dave and Ray constantly fought as well. So there was a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, some tough times for the Kinks. But things did get better. Okay, and then in November of '65, because Reprise was using the singles, the hit singles on their albums, they came out with another album, Kinks Kingdom. Uh, Again, slightly different from the UK version. Still a lot of great hits on here. A well-respected man. Well, he gets up in the morning. This is kind of a Dylan influence. And he's oh so good, and he's oh so kind, he's oh so good in my mind. He's a well-respected man of town, doing the best thing so conservatively. Ray had this bias against young, rich conservative men, and a number of his songs reflected on that. This was a good satire, kind of Dylan-esque. Yeah. And a statement was made here of a political statement, so to speak. Other big hit here. Who'll be the next in line? Who'll make the mistakes I made over you? Back to the hard rock again. But let's get that. It's a really great song. Wonderful stuff. Wait till the summer comes along. It's soft. Such a shame. Don't you fret. Never met a girl like you before. It's all right. A few covers on here. It's a good album. Another album which is getting into that mature phase where it's a mixture of soft and hard, all well constructed, great songs. The Kinks were really making it at that point. Now, here's the last album that is different from the UK version. From this point on, the albums are the same. And that would be The King Controversy, which came out in March of '66. So this has only been about a year and a half now since their first single, and they've already come out with 5 albums. Very prolific. This one doesn't have as many hits on it, but does have the world keeps going round. You just can't stop it. The world keeps going round. And it's got Where Have All the Good Times Gone. That's a great song. Uh, Milk Cow Blues is a cover. It's a good one. Ring the Bells. Got to Get the First Plane Home to My Baby. When I See That Girl of Mine. That's a good song. And of course, the big hit on this is To the End of the Day. So this is a good album. Again, a very mature album. The Kinks looking very splendid in their red velvet suits, very mod, part of that Beat generation, and very distinguished. Um, they were doing pretty good at that point. If they weren't killing each other. Okay. Now, at this time, of course, since the U.S. always wanted to have more albums, they created a greatest hits album in '66. This album came out uh, August '66. This has got all the same singles you've already got on the other albums. Just for people who want to get like the same old stuff. And all these labels up to now are the tri-colored reprise. So this album's kind of redundant. But about this time as well, they came out with the live Kinks album, which was the live in Kelvin Halls as it was released in the UK. And this one, about 65. It's pretty good. It's kind of raw. It's got all the hits on you would expect, but it's got some interesting stuff in here as well. Like Sunny Afternoon, which is coming up on the next album. So this is a nice souvenir. Not as revolutionary as James Brown's Live at the Apollo, but it's fun. And you've captured all that live stuff, and it's always good for a group to come out with a live album because they loosen up and they get to hear more jamming. There's not much more jamming in this one, but the Kinks are showing a lot of power, a lot of strength on that one. So there we are. We're up to 1966 now, and that's it for the first video. And I hope you enjoyed this. We're going to probably do 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 Kinks videos. It is my favorite group. And I hope you enjoyed this. And I'll see you on the next video.